We make all our own bread now. So in trades, at the back is a very tiny, too small now that we know better, bakery, where we make all of our own breads for Oddfellows, Revelers, and Jack of all in trades. So all of our sandwiches are made on breads that are made there in-house. We make bagels at Fresh every day, things like that. Cookies, sweets, things like that are expanding daily. And then we smoke our own meats. So obviously we use a lot of pastrami. We studied cats in New York.
Welcome to the Hidden City Podcast. I'm Grant.
And I'm Doug, and we're here to share some of the incredible stories and people from Oak Cliff that you might not know.
We're going to sit down with some of the visionaries, craftsmen, and business owners who have shaped Oak Cliff into what it is today.
Oak Cliff is on the south bank of the Trinity River, a few miles south of downtown Dallas. While technically it was part of Dallas, it was its own city for a long time, and it still has that independent spirit.
We'll dive into the history and the spirit of this place, exploring the different challenges and successes that defined it.
This is The Hidden City, a podcast about the people and the stories that make Oak Cliff extraordinary.
Well, welcome to this episode of the Hidden City Podcast. We are so excited to have Amy Wallace Cowan with us today. She is the co-founder of Cowan Roberts. I'm going to list off a few of these. We've got Oddfellows, Revelers Hall, Go Oak Cliff, Rabble Rousers, Trades, Jack of all, and Frenchmen all day. Did I miss any of the?
That's plenty.
That's plenty. Okay, well, thanks for joining us. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you.
This is awesome, Amy.
This is fun. Well, there's so many of those places that I know people in Oak Cliff just love. I know Oddfellows is like one of the first places I'm always taking people when they come to Oak Cliff. You've got so many of them under your belt. All of them too kind of scream Oak Cliff to me whenever I'm there. I would just love to hear maybe first how you came to Oak Cliff, and then how you started to kind of go into some of this business building here in the area.
I recently got to recount this story when I was applying to go get a college degree.
Nice.
They're like, why would you be getting a college degree at this old age? It's kind of the feedback I got.
That's
and
funny.
So I was like, well, I don't remember how I got on this trajectory. Let's start back at the beginning. No. Back in 2005, my husband got a job offer here in Dallas that we could not pass up. So we had met and married in Little Rock, which is where I'm from.
Cool.
And he one day came home and said, well, we're moving to Dallas. And so I did. And we came and kind of fulfilled our itch to live in a more urban environment. We lived in Deep Ellum for a minute in a loft. And then we found out we were having our first daughter. And so we moved over to Lakewood because if you're having a baby, you must have a yard and a house, right?
That's
right. But we just didn't hit our stride there. We didn't make friends. We didn't really find our community and our home there. And we had looked at Oak Cliff and at Kings Highway in particular back when we first moved to Dallas from Little Rock, because the price points were similar. The age and character of the home was similar to what we were coming from, and liked it a lot. And our realtor was like, no, absolutely not. You cannot live over there. That's just not going to happen. No.
We've heard that a couple of times. The realtors are just like,
yeah,
she
was a hard no on it.
Yeah.
And we just, the clock ran out. We should have just found a new realtor in theory, right? But we let her kind of browbeat us into staying away from it. And so we, did our thing, floated around, and then found our way to Oak Cliff in 2007. So,
2007, and I think that's kind of around the time Go Oak Cliff came about.
That was a couple years later. Now that it's so much time has passed, it does feel like, this was all happening at the same time. Yeah. But it was actually over.
Tell us
over a longer span of time. So when I was working for the Democratic Party in Arkansas, when my husband announced that we were moving to Texas, where there are not a lot of Democrats, and I was like, oh, my career is over. I don't know what I'll do. And then somehow or another, I did find Democrats here. There's a lovely Dallas County Democratic Party organization, and a couple of fantastic people were running it back then. I'm not really as in touch now. But they trusted me to do some fundraising and events and things like that. But out of that was also the 2008 election night watch party.
The watch party. That's what I remember.
So that's kind of my
2007, 2008. That's kind of close.
That's my gateway. I know.
Quick.
It's a blur,
that's
right?
Pretty quick. That's pretty quick. The watch party. Okay,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
So out of that, I did that on in November of 2008. And to do it, I worked with our state senator, Royce West.
Yep.
The Bishop Arts District Merchants Association, which back then was headed up by Rob Shearer.
Okay.
And I worked with Matt Spillers, who had started Enos at the time. We had to go through the TABC with Royce West's help to get a permit to sell alcohol in the street, because that was not allowed because Oak Cliff was so dry back then.
Oh, yeah, it's true.
It was different times.
Yeah.
But anyway, we threw the party. Multiple thousand people came. Obviously, it worked out great because it went in our favor. I can't imagine if it had gone the other way. But it was a wonderful night. It was a mix of hardcore Democrats who'd worked really hard to see, local elections won and things like that, mixed with people who were inspired and hopeful with Obama's messaging. And it was just a great night in Oak Cliff. And so immediately after, the business owners around were like, what's next? What are we doing next? And
that worked, and that was awesome. How do we keep this thing going?
We had 4,000 people in Bishop Arts. That had never happened before at that point in time. And
interesting.
So that was like the early spark in a lot of ways, I would think, for Bishop Arts, because
I don't want to pretend that I made Bishop Arts anything like that. No, they were well on their way to becoming a hotbed for artists and things like that. They just have such great bones and infrastructure.
Yeah.
And then that
but on the timeline, that's a nice little tick.
Yeah,
sure,
I think it probably
like,
did serendipitously work out to help the district a little bit. So.
What was it like down in Bishop Arts in 2008 time frame at that point? I mean, because it's hard for probably people who are more familiar with Bishop Arts now,
or just coming to Oak Cliff, know this.
You just kind of forget, like, it was, like that. We had, some really unique, cool, art-centric businesses that aren't necessarily there now. Like Soda Gallery was one that was super fun and cool. And before it was Enos, it was Cosmo Rouge, which was trying to do jazz. And we had Brooklyn Jazz, which was trying to bring music to the neighborhood. Obviously, Tony and Hal at Hattie's, pioneered fine dining and Bishop Arts. And sometimes getting that bridge and tunnel crowd down to experience Bishop Arts can be daunting, and they did it. And then, you look at the next block, you've got Michael Amonette, Rick Barton that were pioneering and doing great things. And Dave Spence obviously has a passion for restoration and care of buildings, and that's what the area needed. Did a great job.
Yeah, he's meticulous with his spaces.
Absolutely.
And it's
real
inspiring.
Eye for design.
Yeah. Like he really cares about
settle
each
for
space.
Halfway. Yes.
Yeah.
Always
doesn't
amazed by
settle
that.
for halfway.
Always admired that for sure.
Yeah.
So a lot has changed in Bishop Arts since then.
A whole lot has changed since
Is
then.
there anything you miss about the early days or those earlier days, or is it just you enjoy it in the different phases?
Yeah, it's fun to see. The new people that are there are fantastic. There's a lot of really, really nice entrepreneurial spirit driven people that they're breathing new life into it. I think if you just go and do the same thing every day, it'll fall out of favor. It requires a healthy mix of locals that want to go there to get their dining and their retail shopping and their taking their neighbors around and things like that, or out of town visitors around. But it also requires keeping it fresh enough that new people are like, oh, let's go see what's happening over there now. And so, sometimes it is sad, obviously, when something goes away, but with that, hopefully comes a new thing that makes the news and keeps us relevant and exciting.
No, that's true. I mean, it is hard to watch businesses come and go anywhere. I mean, we see it over here too.
Yeah.
It's just, it's part of the evolution of things. It's just the reality of business too. It's like, not every business lasts forever.
We had Vagabonds, AJ Vagabonds on the corner there. And
Oh,
our lease was, winding down, and we were just, it was more or less just a distraction compared to, all of our restaurant stuff. And it's now a great spot for Dude Sweet Chocolate.
Yeah.
Like, she's got a prime corner. She'll program it, do a good job with it. So it's a good evolution.
I remember you saying one of our conversations, you were just like, I kind of let Jason do that one where it was like a visitor center for Oak Cliff, kind of was like the concept, right?
Yes.
And I was like, that was so fun.
Yes, it was fun. And then it was like, wait, I think we have just too many things. And they all require our personal attention. And so 100%. It's not like you're just checking in on somebody. You're personally.
I want to jump into that because you have chosen Bishop Arts to like really put your roots in and have been there for a while. You have multiple like entities in that area, and not that you're only limited to that area, but like what has driven you to kind of continue to dive into Bishop Arts, continue to open up these other concepts. Everything from I'd say they're kind of hospitality focused at this point. So like Trades Deli would be the most recent. But yeah, what's caused you to really kind of just focus in Bishop Arts for a lot of these things?
Well, when we started Oddfellows, we were part of a larger group that was doing something, and it was, we obviously wanted it to be in our neighborhood. We weren't necessarily eyeballing Bishop Arts in particular. We were looking up and down Davis and other parts at that point in time. But at the time, there was no espresso shop in Oak Cliff. Like if you wanted a latte, you had to go to the Starbucks in the Tom Thumb on Hampton. And so we were part of a 10-person partnership that started Oddfellows, mostly just to fill a void in the neighborhood. And I think we've kind of kept that mantra and that spirit going forward. Like, look at what we have in Oak Cliff and don't necessarily set up shop to compete or take down someone else. But what can we do to round out the experience for the neighbors and then for people coming over to see what Bishop Arts is all about?
What do neighbors need kind of thing? Or what do neighbors want?
It's a good point, too, because there's so many different experiences in Bishop Arts, but there's not a lot of, there's a lot of variety. There's a nice balance of things, I think.
And I'd say piggybacking on that need that we have or whatever, or the idea, the idea that we try to subscribe to, which is, fill a void, is Jim Lake believes in that. He's probably a little bit more of a behind-the-scenes landlord than some of the other ones in the neighborhood, but he's, usually pretty fair. He's pretty open-minded to what you're pitching. He'll tell you straight up no. He'll tell you, like, let's give it a shot. And so he's been a good partner for us. Like, we don't always see eye to eye. Like, I hate his valet parkers, he hates things about me, I'm sure. But we,
so is life. You work with people you don't totally 100% agree with.
You have to just move forward. How are we collectively, gonna eke it all out at the end of the day?
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I think about the myriad of businesses you run, and you mentioned a minute ago, AJ Vagabonds. You chose to shut that one down. How do you know when it's time to move on from a business or a project? And then maybe on top of that, how do you manage all these different businesses at one time?
Well, going in reverse order.
Yeah.
Yes.
The people that you surround yourself with will make or break you every time and twice on Sunday, especially in the restaurant business on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And if you've ever seen the Oddfellows host stand on a Sunday,
Yeah.
But the truth is, we have some wonderful long-term employees, and looking now, it's 2025. The pandemic was 5 years ago already. Like
that's crazy to think about. Yeah.
But so I would say, we employ 111 people, I think, in Bishop Arts, and I would say probably 70% of those people have been with us since before the pandemic.
That's awesome.
That's unheard of.
It's not really a thing in the hospitality business for sure. Yeah. And so that is how we survive. Having so many things is we just have a really wonderful team.
Yeah.
That you can disagree with, and you can whatever agree.
Rely
what is
on.
it?
You can rely.
Yeah. You can
agree to disagree.
Agree to disagree. Disagree but commit.
Yeah.
Is the other one that we say.
Like that. Yeah.
So I can't remember which. Some billionaire says that.
Bezos.
We stole it.
Bezos.
It was Bezos. Yeah.
I think you're right. Jason loves to whip that one out on us sometimes. So.
Oh, Jason.
But yeah,
good thoughts,
and the other thing that I think helps with our team is we try to take our leaders where we can to find the inspiration that we're seeing ourselves. So, we believe in travel, we believe in exploration, and go and have a tactile experience in another environment.
Yeah.
So you can kind of see what we're trying to bring back. And it may not be a whole concept that let's just replicate that concept, right? But it's how did this feel, or how did this packaging look, or what was the flow that we liked about that, or you find the elements and bring back the elements to put together something that's unique and cool for our
I think that's such a valuable thing. And I think we were talking to AJ Ramler, and he was kind of doing the same thing, but like on a development side, where he's like, all right, I'm going to go take my team to Denver and like look at all these mixed use places and kind of draw inspiration. I think we do that in a way where we're like, hey, what is a kind of like a model of excellence for this business or this business? And so what are some of those that come to mind? Like, have you guys, I know Jazz and Revelers Hall we'll get to in a second, but like, are you inspired by certain things over that you're like, I want my staff to see this thing, or I want them to see this thing whenever we come?
I would say it's a mix of seasonality and trends.
Yeah.
Things that we're relevant when we started Oddfellows 15 years ago. Some of that is obviously
Mm-hmm,
passé and over with, but then a lot of that stuff, thankfully, has stayed tried and true. And we were on the early end of adopting and getting in our wheelhouse. But, looking at trades, the newest baby, like, there's nothing new about a Deli. It's the old, they're, the best ones are 150 years old, right? But
it's got age to it,
a little patina on it and things. So going and finding just a mix of examples, the old guard who's, hung in there and done a great job and built a timeless concept, and the new young punk rockers who are, blowing out of the water with something. And you're like, well, I love that too. How do I have a little bit of both? And
that's cool.
So that's kind of what we try to do.
Yeah. No,
I love it. I love watching too, when I see you and your team, a chef, somebody on your team going to like Europe or going to certain places and trying new food, looking at the places there.
I feel like
it's so cool.
I feel like Oak Cliff wins too.
Big time,
because it's like, hey, y'all are making something very special that you're bringing and like serving your neighbors with, and you're kind of getting to take in knowledge from other places. I think it's awesome.
I hope so. The
goal is Amy.
The goal is right to build something everybody is excited to go, and then the other part is somewhere you can eat twice a week and not be like, oh, I've already been there.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Matt Spillers was one of the ones who kind of was like, well, food can be recession proof, and just think about it that way. And so taking a little bit of his old guidance and putting that forward. So
is there, in all of your businesses, is there a thing that you and Jason sort of obsess over or think about a lot that most people would probably not notice or think about?
We probably do not obsess over the same things. We definitely obsess over a lot of things. Some are healthier than others probably, but I would say Jason is, I love to tease him because now he's crossed the 50 mark.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, but music is his thing. He cannot stand walking in a place that has top 40 radio. Or anything like that. It's just is immediately like, whoa.
It's part of his personality.
It is. And he was in a band forever. And so obviously that I give him that lane. That's your lane. I will say now that he's 50, we've been on his case a little more about like,
the type
maybe you should listen to what the kids are listening to these days, and bring a little bit of that in. So we've had to a little ribbing going on about that.
I always appreciated that about Oddfellows. I felt like the music and different stuff was always, I don't know, I appreciate it. I don't know, it was thoughtful, it was intentional, and it was kind of cool.
I get excited when I get back, and then all of a sudden it'll be a John Baptiste song. I'm a huge fan, and he's obviously a New Orleanian, so I walking up and hearing Freedom is like, I love this. Thank you for thinking of me and putting this on the playlist. So it's a way to show love, I think, and that's awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
I would say I obsess more about lighting.
Nice. Interesting.
I like it to be warm and ambient, and nobody wants to eat in a spotlight.
True.
And then just overall friendliness, I think, is probably the thing that we mutually agree on and harp on. Just even if you're having a bad day, you got to shake it off, and we got to get through the shift. You
got to be welcoming and got to be
it's the hospitality business. Like this is what we do. So let's work through your problems. What can we solve real quick? And if we can't solve it real quick, then let's shelve it and move forward. And
that's the beauty of a team, I think, too, that is all bought into that mentality. You kind of are there for each other. But the hospitality side we've talked about on the show many times now, and it does seem to be the thing that, like, people that are really great at something, they always prioritize that, I think.
For sure.
At least in the food,
in
this industry,
Well,
and there's out of the Me Too era, but there was that whole not telling women you need to smile more, but the truth is, we all, if you're genuinely like feeling joy in your work and in your environment and things like that, it will come through your face, whether it's a smile or whether it's your eyes, or whatever it is.
It's true.
So how do we make sure, like, the people that work for us are genuinely happy enough that they're not giving off the vibes that are
taken care of?
We don't have to say smile more because you're genuinely like, oozing a little bit of happiness. So that's kind of the.
Yeah, it's almost one of those things that you can't coach too much. Like, it kind of has to.
You cannot train somebody to be happy.
It kind of has to be there. And sometimes that's personality driven, I think. Like, some people are just generally going to be a little happier.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes it's also like your circumstance, like you're saying, like you want your employees to be happy.
Yeah, I like it. Yeah, I feel like it's exactly what you guys are saying. It's like taking care of them, and it kind of it happens.
Well, and it's hiring right, isn't it? Like there's all the statistics about how much it costs to train an employee, but if you hire someone who you can tell in the interview is not a gregarious or warm person, you're probably not going to suddenly turn around and find them to be that.
It's the right people. So finding that.
Hiring right.
Tell us, you moved to New Orleans in 2017?
Correct.
Is that kind of, okay.
Been there 8 school years.
8 school years.
That's how we count time.
There you go.
Yeah. And when you've had this connection still in Dallas and this like kind of in between, like, I don't know, relationship, I feel like with New Orleans and Dallas, like what have you brought from New Orleans to Dallas that you're just like, hey, this city, like, I want to bring this kind of thinking here. But then also, we should get into the Frenchman all day as well and talk through that, because you obviously had this group and then you've started to do some work there.
Yes. And so, well, a couple of things about it. One is we would not have Revelers Hall if I had not moved to New Orleans.
I love it.
Because nobody wants a jazz bar, right? Like
it was such a novel concept.
And then, I mean, when we were looking at the space and, talking to Jim about it, someone in Jim Lake Company's office put a sign in the window that said something about jazz bar coming soon. And our banker saw it and was like, y'all got to take that sign down. Absolutely nobody wants, jazz. That's horrible. Like,
it's going to turn people away.
Nobody's going there. That's
typical
awful.
Banker.
Exactly. What a buzzkill.
What do they know about it?
No, he's a wonderful friend, great man. Not into our music scene.
We love bankers.
Yeah,
we love bankers.
No. But yeah, having been in New Orleans and exposed to it so much, you understand that there's bebop jazz and things like that. But there's also in scatting and all these things that people have preconceived notions about. Sure. But then you go to, any random corner of New Orleans and you find the best brass band you've ever seen in your life. And you're like, oh, that's jazz.
Right.
I can get into that kind of jazz. And so, Jason had always wanted this kind of thing, music being his thing.
Yeah.
But once I had lived it and seen it, I was like, okay, and I understand how to do it. That is still always the thing with me and Jason is like, he has the idea, but if I don't know how to do it, we can't do it because we bring different things to the table in execution. So
today's show is brought to you by Oak Cliff Brewing Co. Are you interested in unwinding and connecting with neighbors over a great beer? Then go visit Oak Cliff Brewing Co. They've got a great tap room with all sorts of great beers on tap. It's a full production brewery here in the heart of Oak Cliff. Visit oakcliffbrewing.com to find out what's on tap right now and where you can find fresh beer made right here in Oak Cliff.
I think I feel like going down to Bishop Arts and always hearing like music happening in that, it's kind of like the heart of Bishop Arts, I would say, or at least what I would consider it. And you just have this like, your fingerprint is there. Like you've kind of I don't want to say changed Bishop Arts, but it's like you go down there and you hear it and you're just like, oh, there's like heart and soul happening like here. Whereas like before it almost felt like it needed that and you brought it. So it's just like awesome.
I would love to say that that's me, but that's not me. That's, I believed in it and was willing to do the work and help, make this all happen. And 6 years later, we're still making it happen. But a couple, Jim Lake believed in that too. Yes. He knew the importance of keeping a good tenant mix on that block.
Yep.
And was willing to take the chance
and
let that happen. And then the other person really who just rounded out the flavor that is that music is Kevin Butler. He's the sousaphone player. Plays tuba, plays bass, plays everything.
Yes. Awesome.
Okay,
I love that.
Yeah. Everybody knows him as the sousaphone guy, right? But, he started the Revelers Hall band, put together super talented musicians, did the music roster for a couple of years himself, and really helped curate the sound that is Revelers Hall.
Okay.
So,
that's neat.
Oh, that's awesome.
Well, New Orleans, of course, has amazing food.
Yes.
How did moving there influence the way you think about your food here?
Well, the embarrassing thing about me living in New Orleans is I actually don't like fish.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that's the little bit of humiliating shame that I bear.
Hey, it's okay.
You
don't have to like all things.
Yeah. I'll eat a couple oysters a year just to like go with the party.
Yeah.
I'll eat a little bit of crawfish because I like the party, but like for actually sitting down and ordering a dish,
it's not gonna be your
probably
first,
going to be chicken or steak.
Yeah.
It's really boring.
Yeah.
But I would say there's the type of food that's in New Orleans, and then there's the sense of hospitality and the culture that is how they perceive food and enjoy food. And that is something that really resonates with me. There's, 80-year-old men that still put on their tuxedo to come serve my chicken. And that chicken will be the same price for, a lovely dining experience as it would be just at an average restaurant.
Yeah. Right.
It's just a pride that they have in how they present food and how they, the pride that they have in their job in providing hospitality. And I love that.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
I love that too.
That's awesome. Okay, so you just flew into Dallas, and you said you went back to the office. What does that look like?
Well, we don't have an office.
Okay, you went back and
I
saw
went
the
to
team.
a restaurant.
You saw the team. You saw the team. You saw the team.
I have strong feelings about offices and restaurant operators in that you need to be in your restaurant to know what's going on.
Yeah.
And if you have an office, then your finger's that much further off the pulse of what's going on in your restaurant. So we don't have an office. We have a storage situation. Okay. And that's about it. But
we have a storage situation. What is that? It's like file cabinet somewhere? Or
that would be nice. I know. Yeah. We have a printer. Yeah.
There we go.
A lot of glassware and things like that.
That's great.
Yeah. Glass bottles for all of our bottling. But no, I think, I love my commute. It's, a Southwest to New Orleans flight is an hour or to and from New Orleans.
It's not bad at all.
That's
1 hour.
It's very simple.
That's great.
And they do a wonderful job making sure you're, if you're a regular flyer with Southwest or even American, or I guess once you get status anywhere, they do a really good job trying to just get you to the front, get you in, get you out. And so it's, door to door from my front door to the restaurant front door, sometimes maybe 3 hours.
That's pretty great.
Not bad.
No.
In Southwest, Love Field, I mean,
that's great.
We're
Super
Southwest
easy.
guys.
Yeah,
we love
are,
Southwest.
Southwest.
If anyone needs
easy.
a Southwest credit card.
Same. I get the referrals.
I know.
Hello.
That's a great idea, Doug.
Just put that in the show notes.
Referral links to sign up for credit cards.
Which friend needs to use my link to get a Southwest credit card?
And 3 hours is not bad at all.
Super easy.
Yeah.
You get Wi-Fi, you can get a little work done,
Yeah.
or you can zone out with a book and
Yeah.
kind of reset
great.
your brain
That's
from
great.
whatever you've been going through before you walk into what may or may not be utter chaos when you get here. So it's the restaurant business after all. But
That's fun.
I love where I live. I love the separation in my work and my home. New Orleans as a whole there's just always something going on, and if you want to go out to a party, that's great. If you want to skip it, there will be another one tomorrow.
Yeah.
No big deal. So I love that. I love their culture, their flavor, all the wildness is right up my alley. I tried to infect as much as I could onto Oak Cliff, as you can probably tell from my time here.
We'll get into the Mardi Gras parade at some point.
But my time here is, I barely leave Bishop Arts when I'm here. I come straight there. I kind of stay there. But I like my work family a lot. They're great. I get to see old friends that come through to eat and drink at our restaurants and things like that. So
that's got to be a really satisfying thing to see, like old friends coming through your space.
Yeah. It's probably a little weird for my children sometimes. My husband, they're like, she's leaving again.
But
that's great.
But they've been troopers and pretty supportive, and so
that's
nice.
awesome.
Okay, so Amy, being in New Orleans and then in Dallas and having these businesses in your time and all this mixed together, I immediately think of like the Oak Cliff Mardi Gras. So like the Mardi Gras parade, that happened before you lived in New Orleans and started. You were obviously involved in that, maybe even started it? Is that okay?
She started it,
Started it, okay. So like, what did that take? How did that come about? It's kind of turned into, I'd say, one of the biggest events in Oak Cliff.
Yeah, it's definitely also the biggest Mardi Gras
parade in North Texas
celebration. In North Texas for sure.
Yeah.
I've always loved New Orleans. I attempted college for a minute and did not find myself there, and got a job here in Dallas actually, and it was not a fit. And my dad he still works in the jewelry business. And was like, if you find a place in New Orleans, I'll split your rent with you. So I was like, well, let me find a job in New Orleans. So I moved there in 1998. I lived there in 1998, 1999, and loved it. I found myself just kind of alone and lonely. I was like, okay, I probably ought to go home and try college one more time. So out of that though, I think the things that I loved about it are just the camaraderie and the fun and the friendships that come from Mardi Gras. Obviously, there's the pre-connotations about nudity and
sure.
wild, crazy behavior. But the truth is, like for most people, Mardi Gras is a giant tailgate party that just happens weekend after week, day after day, and your kids are running in the street between floats and parades, and
it's community. And it's like people together
eating fried chicken and cake and drinking beer, and just having
it's
a wonderful day,
time.
hopefully in the sunshine.
Right.
And yes, having a great time with your neighbors and building communities is kind of my takeaway from it.
All before Lent, right?
All before Lent.
That's right.
Before Lent.
You gotta get all your sins over with before Lent.
Right.
Before you go
Ash
get
Wednesday.
pure.
There you go.
Yes. So, so when we moved to Dallas, there was a Mardi Gras parade, and it was in a different part of town, and we went. And out of our little group, I think we caught one sad strand of beads or something, and it was like, ooh, and it was just really corporate, which real Mardi Gras is very anti-corporate. You're actually not allowed to have a lot of branding or anything in those parades. And so when we did the Democratic Party election night watch party in Bishop in 2008, and everybody was turning and saying, what's next? What can we do next? That was November, and Mardi Gras was in February, and it was like, well, we can do Mardi Gras. And so I finally got to, I think I had submitted a letter to Dave Spence and to the Bishop Arts District Merchants Association in advance saying, you guys have the perfect infrastructure to have a great Mardi Gras. Like it's
nice.
compact and tight and neat, and there's big Mardi Gras, but then there's all the little parishes that have their smaller parades and things that are actually a lot of fun and a little more handmade and things than the big Mardi Gras celebrations. Nobody answered me. So when they were like, what's next? I was like, well, I'm going to pick something I want to do. And so that's what I picked.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
And did it always go down Davis?
It did not. When we started, we came from basically Hogg Elementary and Methodist. We just came up Bishop and then through Bishop Arts and disbanded. Yeah. It was small. It was really homemade.
Yeah.
Somewhere along the way, more people were willing to get involved. One of those was Rob Shearer, who is always thinking about like the bigger vision of something. That's one of his fortes. And he was like, it needs to come down Davis so that it touches more commercial corridor and, things like that. So that was his idea.
Oh, okay, cool. I was going to try to blame Andrew Snow.
But, Andrew Snow is the poor innocent victim that I gave it all to for $1 when I moved away in 2017.
That's awesome.
Well, and obviously what we're talking about too is just Go Cliff in general, which has, which you founded, and it's got Mardi Gras, Oak Cliff. It's got Bastille and Bishop. Yep. We've got the barbecue, Blues Bands and Barbecue
15
Festival.
Years going on now, something like that.
Yeah, I think it's like 15, 16 years for most of it.
And Andrew Snow suckered us into doing a lot of this.
That's right. That was our entry
Thanks
point.
A lot, Amy / Andrew / Rob / whoever.
Yeah, literally. Whoever did this to us. Thank you.
There was a cadre back then.
Yeah.
So I did not start Go Cliff by myself. I would say, giving credit where credit is due. Edwin Cabanis.
Yes, of course.
Who, if you've been in Oak Cliff and a lot of Dallas, you probably know Edwin. He's, also a forward thinker.
Yep.
And he and Matt Spillers both had more skin in the game, obviously, than Jason and I had, or really even Rob at that point. But, there was the cadre of 5 of us kind of came together and made that happen. And we all had different roles. I would say that, organization, herding cats is kind of what I do best. And so a lot of that fell on me. But the actual idea of Bastille Day, Bastille and Bishop, came from a neighbor, Pierrette LaCour, who lived on Clinton Street. She used to do it in her front yard.
Didn't know that.
It didn't have a name back then. It was just an awesome French party that she threw. It was one of the first parties I ever went to in Oak Cliff. It was really welcoming. It, fit children all the way to senior citizens that just wanted to gather, and it was beautiful. So with Jason's prodding, we took that and put it on Bishop. in the middle of summer in Texas, which is kind of, nutty.
It's always 105 degrees at 10 p.m. on July 14th. And
the best one was the year it rained.
Honestly, everyone's
the
like,
crowd dwindled, but the temperature was amazing, and then the rain cleared.
Not,
and it was
not the best one on the books, but
but it was just such a great hang session. Everybody was not hot. It was just a great time to be with neighbors, and that was a lot of fun. And then Blues Bandits and Barbecue, actually Jason's ex-wife, Andrea, concepted that, cool. Probably with a little bit of his steering, if I had to guess, knowing Jason. But she really wanted that, and it tied into doing another Better Block project that Jason wanted to do and some things. So
that's awesome.
We just made it happen. Then we used to do Brew Riot also.
Yes. That's right.
Which was born out of a love of craft beer. Matt Spillers had Eno's at the time, which was one of the first restaurants in Oak Cliff to serve craft beer. At the time, it was like, what do you mean you don't have Miller Lite?
Right.
Like, nobody could even fathom, obviously you're going to fail
if
you don't have these,
That's
big
funny.
beer products. And he really showed, that, no, you can build a beer culture. And, so that was what we did.
That's cool. Brew Riot. And now, of course, Jack of All Pub is in Bishop Arts.
Yes. So we, it was kind of a mix of prodding and pushing to make that one happen, but its proximity to Oddfellows obviously was a large driver of where it is.
Sure.
We've always had a fascination with beer brewing, vertical integration, and things like that for our companies. But getting to be part of the beer cultures is really fun. It's a really welcoming group of people.
Yeah, I agree.
A lot of restaurants in particular, and other industries, I'm sure, protect their trade secrets. They don't tell you about what they're doing, and they don't disclose much. And in the beer brewing world, it's kind of the opposite. It's come in, take a look behind the curtain and see what we're working on.
Let's do something together even.
It's really collaborative. It's really cool. And so I'm really excited to be part of that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You mentioned vertical integration.
I was just going to jump there too.
All right, Doug, look at that. You go ahead.
Let's ask her. No, go for it.
Today's show is brought to you by Waxspace. Are you looking for a place in Oak Cliff to connect and meet other neighbors? Then Waxspace is the place for you. Come join the Neighborhood Work Club, and for just $80 a month, you can get all the things you need to be productive at work. Why work from home when you can work from a place with other neighbors? We've got cold brew, fresh coffee all day, phone booths for your meetings. We've got a podcast studio and a lot of other amenities here. So visit thewaxspace.com to learn more and sign up today. Yeah, I was thinking of, obviously, Rabble Rouser's another company of yours in coffee roasting, and how smart that is that you can serve that coffee in your different restaurants. Beer now too. Tell us about, for our listeners too, vertical integration. What does that mean?
Okay.
And also, how do your businesses work together?
Okay. Well, a large part of this is Jason pushing. So Jason has the idea and the push. He throws out 100. I pick one I can maybe get my head around, and we go with it.
Cool.
One of those is obviously coffee roasting. We started Rabble Rousers Coffee Roasting. It's a nod to our stirring the pot lifestyle that we
love that
we had back in the day. Now we're so old and tame.
No.
But we have, as I mentioned, we've had some long-term staff who's been with us a really long time. One in particular had been a barista for, at that point in time, probably 7 or 8 years. Like a long time.
Yeah.
And didn't really have a growth plan or strategy with us. And I guess the next frontier is roasting. And
cool.
So it was a really hard sell. I was really proud of the coffee program that we had before. We have a La Marzocco Strata machine that was really cutting edge to get in 2010. The serial number is 11. It was the first one to ever come to the United States. It was
the 11th
a very
one?
big
It
deal.
made news whenever, like, I remember that being one of the things where it was like, oh, I'm going to go to Oddfellows so that I can see this thing.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. It was a huge deal
attraction.
to get. It was a big deal to get.
Yeah.
And I was not, dissatisfied with our coffee program. And so I was extremely hesitant and nervous about making that jump. But, eventually you keep asking, and you just
got beat down by
this. You just get beat down into doing it. No. But I had great faith.
Oh, Jason.
Jason was passionate about it, and he's like, it's not that hard, And then the team that needed that opportunity and that challenge really helped seal the deal on that. He needed a growth plan and a strategy, and he's still with us roasting for us today. So
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's so cool.
And then we do serve those beans at Oddfellows. We serve them at trades. We sell them at Frenchmen All Day. They have their own roast that we roast here and just ship down there.
Okay.
And then occasionally you do Salty Donut or somebody else picks up our beans. So
Yeah, nice.
it's nice.
What other things do you make that are in-house that are kind of vertically integrated, I guess?
Yeah, more and more every day. But we make all our own bread now. So
Awesome.
in trades, at the back is a very tiny, too small now that we know better, bakery.
Funny. Okay.
Where we make all of our own breads for Oddfellows, Revelers, and Jack of All and Trades.
Cool.
So all of our sandwiches are made on breads that are made there in-house. We make bagels at Fresh every day, things like that. Cookies, sweets, things like that are expanding daily.
Nice.
And then we smoke our own meats. So obviously we use a lot of pastrami. We studied cats in New York. They're thick cut, fall apart.
Unbelievable.
This is one of your favorite items over at Trade.
Man. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The pastrami sandwiches, everyone needs to go get it. But Katz is the right one to say.
Absolutely.
That's a good model of
We have
excellence.
stood there at their little tasting counter way longer than you're supposed to stand there, kind of just looking to see how they make that magic happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think our chef's done a great job recreating what we like about that product.
Yeah.
And then we smoke our own salmons. We do it pastrami style, lox style, and I don't know, all these different. I think it's all lox.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm misspeaking.
Yeah.
There's pastrami style, smoked, and then there's just regular salmon. And so anyway, 3 different ways that you can get it, but we use it across multiple restaurants. Make our own sausage. All that
awesome.
kind of things.
Does any of
Smoke
that
on
go
bacon.
over to Revelers too, or is it like? Because it feels like from the outside looking in, and I think the reason Grant and I are so excited to like ask you these questions too is like sure for the listeners, but I'm like I want this knowledge, Amy. Like it's just fascinating to hear how your mind works on this. But it looks like you guys have built these businesses, but now you're kind of going back and finding ways to add value or like continue to like give value to the other businesses via the businesses. Is that kind of right?
A little bit.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of really fantastic places in Dallas to buy bread, like as an example.
Yeah.
But there's little things like I want a loaf that is exactly this long, and I want a bagel that is exactly this round, and things like that you need to execute other portions of your menu in other restaurants. So by taking control of that supply chain and controlling not only the quality of the ingredients that are going in it, but you can also just control like portion sizes and cost and things like that in a way that that we had not really been able to control before. So that part's nice, in that regard. On the smoking stuff, there's just, if you've ever had just regular old Deli turkey, there's the kind that's in a package that's sealed, and there's the kind that they're cutting for you at the counter, and then there's ours, and they're not at all the same. Ours is just far superior because it's roasted, it's fresh, it never touches plastic. It's there and ready and wonderful. So, yeah.
Do people come in to trades to just get the meats usually, or is that?
They
I haven't
do.
thought about. I've only thought about it mainly as sandwiches, self-admittedly, but that'd be interesting.
You're not wrong to think that way.
Okay.
I would say, and this may tie into kind of what you're asking about vertical integration, and all of our stuff is sort of it's all scaling up, I guess, over time. So it's too complicated to come in and turn on in one day. We found very early on. And so we you buy the oven, you're like, of course, you just hire a baker and you just all of a sudden have bread. Like that is not how that works at all. I learned. Or at the coffee roaster, it took months to get it right. Beer brewing, obviously you guys are familiar. Like that's many months, and sometimes you're throwing a batch away. And
takes time.
So
all for just the co-working space to have some beer.
That's why.
Just kidding.
But the different programs that are coming out of trades have all been staggered so that we can hopefully do them right. So we open with the sandwiches, and we added in the catering. And then we're slowly working on the market aspect, the grab and go aspect. So you'll see you can come in and order sliced meats at any time. We have been packaging them for a minute for the people that don't want to talk to anybody and they just want to buy and
take
out
something
and leave.
to go.
Yeah. We've been doing that for a while, but you will be able, hopefully in the next 2 weeks, to come in and just, I'd like a pound of turkey, whatever. They'll slice it there on site for you. And then cheese boards, charcuterie boards, things like that to take home, parties, things like that. You'll be able to get those freshly made right there.
That's
at the deli
awesome.
counter. So yeah,
That's great.
That is
I
awesome.
can't wait to go over there and just buy some meat. I'm gonna do that next.
I didn't
you
think
can buy
about that.
meat, you can buy the bread,
Yeah.
and then you can buy David Kansas sausage. So you can get all the
love it.
different mayos and spreads
Oh.
and things there too. So.
I love it.
And if you ask nicely, they'll probably sell you a tomato.
Oh,
And you
there
can,
you
you
go.
know, like,
You can just sell it-
you don't have to
sell
go
it.
to the
Don't have to
store
go
at
anywhere
all.
else.
Exactly. That's the goal.
Well, Amy, I think I love talking about all these businesses and how you kind of like serve neighbors through them and how they also all work. I think something too that you bring to the table is just an understanding of Oak Cliff, and you have this love for it. But what like draws you to Oak Cliff, like coming in from New Orleans? Like what I know what started to draw you. Like what continues to draw you here and investing.
You know, I would say, I don't know. It's a special. It feels like a small town in a big city, so it's easy to get to know people and regulars and faces, and you know, it's kind of crazy. My oldest child was an infant when we moved here, and she's graduating from high school next month.
That's
so
cool.
it's knowing people that you're going to run into, and they know to ask you about this person or this story in your life, and I think that's special, especially in a big city. To find a place where you can build community and know faces and know your neighbors and things like that. I'm not necessarily their living neighbor, anymore, but we're definitely rooted here.
Yeah,
we definitely have a strong tie.
Yeah.
And then we employ a whole lot of people here, and we want them to live in the neighborhood, and so how well the neighborhood does impacts them.
Right.
Are they having, I don't know, good qualities of lives living here? So.
Yeah, I love the analogy of a small town in a big city, because that is what it feels like. And we talk about it on this show all the time, but cross the Trinity River and you're in another town, basically, and everybody kind of either recognizes each other or sees each other at different places. And I don't know if that's the case in a lot of other places in Dallas or
I don't think so.
other places in
I
general.
think there's a lot of things. I mean, some of it goes down to the form of Oak Cliff,
Sure.
right? Like, if you go to a lot of newer construction areas and they enter their garage from their back alley and they park in their garage and they never go to their front porch. They don't have that front porch community thing going on. And Oak Cliff isn't built that way, but that doesn't exist here really. And so it already kind of naturally, the bones force you to interact more in a different way.
That's a good point, yeah.
The different people that come in and do things, whether it's, our old street festivals that you guys are carrying forward, or whether it's school carnivals or going out to eat at your local restaurant, that's all creating familiarity and routine that I think people crave. And it's a great place to find it. And I know the growth has been kind of used to stir fear for the whole time I've been involved in Oak Cliff.
Yeah.
But what I learned in the pandemic and from doing that market that we did at Oddfellows was our survival method. Was that these new people who were in these scary apartments, they're actually lovely people.
Yeah.
They're just human.
We know some.
They want to walk their dog and grab their local coffee, and they're just want to they're lovely too. There's no end date of when you had to be in Oak Cliff before for you to be a good contributing neighbor, I guess, to Oak Cliff. And so I don't know, just continuing to evolve smartly, and with care, I think is something Oak Cliff will do great at, because there's so many people that do care.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I love that too.
It feels, we've talked about this on the show too. It kind of attracts those people. So those new people too, it's, not all of them, but, a lot of them do care about some of these values that we kind of care about and have been here for a while caring about, and these businesses care about, or these communities care about. And so it's interesting hearing that, that's been something you've heard from the beginning, is like any growth can kind of be scary. And that's like an age-old question for sure with Oak Cliff, is like how to grow well. I think Monty's done a good job of that. I think there's others that are obviously doing a good job of that, but it's happening. Chad West was on here talking about it too. He was like, it's not stopping.
Right.
No, it's not. And it's not just not Dallas specific. It's everywhere.
It's everywhere. Yeah.
And the other thing, living in an old part of town, an older housing stock and things like that, and New Orleans faces this too, is old buildings require a lot of maintenance, which
Right.
requires money.
Yep.
And so you cannot continue to just rent your 1920s structure at the same rate forever, because you're going to have to maintain it, or otherwise you're creating an unsafe and unhospitable living environments for someone. So it had to evolve anyway.
Yeah.
You know, it's going to have to continue to evolve here, New Orleans, everywhere.
Yeah. Everywhere.
It's going to have to continue to evolve. It's how do you evolve in a way that includes as many people as possible.
Yeah. And retains that spirit. And I think it's the people, like you said, that like end up finding themselves in Oak Cliff that really help carry that spirit forward. And it's very entrepreneurial. It's very community first, community centric, collaborative. It's like, those are all things that just kind of are imparted through the things that happen
for sure
here. Okay. So question for you, if somebody who's maybe in Oak Cliff, aspiring entrepreneur, or wants to get involved in the community, what, you're going to hate this question, but what kind of advice would you give to them about how to maybe start a business or get involved in Oak Cliff, or, you know, join a community organization or something like that?
I am probably the last person to offer such advice.
Yeah.
but
But you have lots of experience. You have so much experience.
The first project that I ever did, I was invited to be part of by someone who had more experience than me in it. And that was the best thing that could have ever happened to me. And when those partners were kind of tiring of the business and looking to do other things, the notion that I would be the person to buy that business, the restaurant, Oddfellows in particular, was just foreign to me. I could not imagine that I would be qualified to do that. I've never even been a server. I've been a catering manager, but not a server, you know? So the fact that I would run a restaurant was just lost on me. But then I quickly figured out that there's a school of hard knocks, and they take everybody. So if you're willing to grind and willing to learn and to absorb new ways of doing things, learn from your mistakes and pivot, you know, until you find the right fit, then I think many more people could be entrepreneurial than are brave enough to be entrepreneurial, if that makes sense. I think it takes a lot of courage to turn off a safe salary and go over here into the no man's land where you don't know if you're going to get paid, right?
Land of the unknown, really.
You guys know. Yeah. But the reward is great, and it's probably worth the sacrifice, if I had to say. And I would say find a couple mentors. Don't take everything they say all the way to the grave. But, you know, absorb what you can from a lot of people you admire and respect, and apply it to your situation.
That's good. It's really good.
That is great. Well, Amy, thank you for your time, for coming in here and getting on the show. We appreciate it. I think, is there, kind of closing out some of this, is there, besides visiting the restaurants or going to Revelers, what should people do to help do all that? Do all that. Come check out for Revelers. I mean, I feel like there's not a bad time to go.
There's not. There's music every day.
Yeah.
They have a wonderful happy hour from 4 to 7 every weekday. Yes. Yeah. I think all of our places have a happy hour. I'm not sure about Jack of all now that I say that. But everybody else is ready to see you. So
get the pastrami sandwich at Trades.
Yes, get it Reuben style in particular for a little extra. Yeah, you might need a fork.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Making me hungry. Love it. Well, thanks for coming on the show, Amy.
Maybe a bib.
Appreciate it.
So great to chat with you.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Thanks. Hey, thanks for tuning in to this episode of The Hidden City. We hope you discovered something about Oak Cliff that you didn't know. If you enjoyed the show, I hope you subscribe to it on YouTube and then follow us on any of the podcasting platforms. Also, if you enjoyed it, please share with a friend, and thanks so much for tuning in.